Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Today is day 6 of Lifestyle Medicine Week, where I introduce you to yet another fabulous new lifestyle medicine doctor. And to introduce today's guest is Dr. Madhuri Paidisetti.
Hi, thank you, Chef AJ. Yes, I'm Dr. Madhuri Paidisetti. I'm based in Chicago. I love lifestyle medicine. I love whole food, plant-based nutrition, and I love dancing. So I am extremely honored to introduce today our chief guest, Dr. Aruna Nathan. She's an extremely dedicated internal medicine and lifestyle medicine physician with over 20 years of experience. Throughout the years, Dr. Nathan has provided care for her patients in her office, the hospital, nursing homes, assisted living, and rehabilitation facilities, and patient homes in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Recognizing that many of today's chronic diseases are closely connected to our lifestyle and food choices, Dr. Nathan embarked on her journey in lifestyle medicine, a specialty that uses evidence-based lifestyle therapeutic approaches to prevent, treat, and often reverse chronic diseases through better nutrition, physical activity, practical exercise, sleep hygiene, and reduction of stress and addictions. Dr. Nathan is one of the premier physicians in the United States to board certify in lifestyle medicine and implement its philosophies in her own internal medicine practice. She prefers to treat the root cause of disease, not just the symptoms, with nutrition education, exercise, and mindfulness while reducing unnecessary medications and prescription drugs. In her group lifestyle medicine practice, instructional cooking demos are held where patients cook along with the healthcare staff. In 2019, the center ran 3 sessions a day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and during the holidays. The team also encourages activities to motivate patients, including Tai Chi, walk with a dog, group exercise sessions showing the general principles of physical activity guidelines, and courses highlighting mindfulness-based stress reduction techniques. During the pandemic, the center ran Dr. Esselstyn's Prevent and Reverse program for 12 weeks, followed by Dr. Nathan's own 14-week course, Get Your Health Back. She ran this course with immense support from her outstanding nurse practitioner student, Erin. Many patients attained great outcomes, lowered their blood pressure, cholesterol, sugars, and lost weight to achieve great BMIs. Dr. Nathan has shared with us several photos of her office. There are colorful educational infographics all over the walls for patients to learn about lifestyle and the power of whole food plant-based nutrition. When she is not busy in her practice, Dr. Nathan strengthens her advocacy and outreach skills. Through the Institute of Lifestyle Medicine, she refined her culinary expertise to become a chef coach. Dr. Nathan is on the path to become a certified wellness coach and an Ayurvedic practitioner. She stays busy. I have been incredibly lucky to receive tremendous coaching, mentorship, and knowledge from Dr. Nathan for my own board exam prep and lifestyle medicine physician certification. She's an invaluable asset to academic institutions and platforms around the globe that embrace lifestyle medicine with her vast experience, generous knowledge base, and thoughtful insights she loves to share. I have been highly touched by her incredibly energetic, positive, and motivating attitude. She's such a great mentor. And also her warm, caring, and down to earth personality. Her patients are very lucky. Dr. Nathan is extraordinary. Now, I would like to warmly welcome our dear friend, Dr. Aruna Nathan, to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Pedisetti. That was, I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. And just one thing there, we ran 3 sessions for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the whole year. So we ran 3 each in the whole year. But I love that. I love that because one of the things I realized while practicing internal medicine and lifestyle medicine is most patients and most people and all of us, we know what we should do in most instances. We know what we should be eating, how much rest we should get, all of that. But, it's doing together and making it fun. When we actually do something and we enjoy it, we keep doing more of it. And that's why we decided to just start this cook along in the office.
That's fabulous. Dr. Nathan, I know originally you were going to be the doctor that introduced every guest this week, but in a way that would have been difficult because I don't know if you could have introduced yourself so eloquently.
Oh my goodness, absolutely, absolutely. And I think in life in general, I believe that things just happen and they happen for a reason. And sometimes you just don't know why things happen. And I was going to be the one introducing everyone because I never thought I would be traveling during the pandemic. And lo and behold, I'm in Texas this week, actually these 3 days. And that's when Madhuri was so nice to step in, and she is doing such an amazing job. I don't think I could have done as good as her.
Yeah, and it was great. Now I know her and she's going to be on the show in the future, and maybe she'll even dance for us because she says she likes to dance.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. And you live in you're the second lifestyle medicine doctor from Baltimore or the Baltimore area this week.
Yes, yes. I actually trained in Baltimore, so I'm very familiar with Baltimore. And I live outside of DC, but in Maryland. So yeah, we are really lucky here.
And you're board certified in not just lifestyle medicine, but internal medicine. So if somebody was in that area or wanted to travel, they could come to your practice, correct?
Yes and no. We are a smaller practice at this point, but definitely, being an internal medicine doctor and being a lifestyle doctor, you really can take care of people end to end.
I love that, end to end, literally. Kind of what a GI doctor does, end to end.
That's right. Because, when I started practicing, I was actually taking care of sicker patients in the hospital. And then and that's what my goal was. I really wanted to be an inpatient doctor, an ICU doctor, an intensive care doctor, but I really lacked the continuity of care. And that's when I, started seeing patients outside the hospital, and I really enjoyed the longitudinal care and getting to know the patients really well and their family, and that's the beauty of primary care.
Right, nice. Well, one thing you're going to talk about today that I find so interesting is spices, because I think we think of them in a culinary way most of the time, but not so much in a therapeutic or medicinal way, or maybe some people do, but I don't think everybody does.
Yeah, I wanted to just share a few things about spices in general, and I wanted to share a few simple recipes that we can make at home. And the main reason I wanted to do that is many a times when we generally meet with patients and we talk to our patients about foods, we really concentrate on things that are high in fiber. We talk about eating lots of plants, vegetables, lentils, beans, seeds, but when someone is not feeling well or they are recovering from an illness, the types of food they should be eating may change a little bit. And so I just wanted to focus on that. Most patients, when they are not feeling well, say they have an upper respiratory tract infection or they may have a cold, they tend to buy soups from the grocery store, like like canned soups, and so you really don't get a lot out of that, and you really want to eat foods that make you feel a little better, maybe stimulate your appetite a little. And so I wanted to start off with that. And I also wanted to link in a few other things and other cultures, because if we look in to what maybe people ate, say, 3 generations ago, and like you have minestrone soup, which we still have now, right? And there was a study done. Actually, it's not a study, but it was a little experiment in a middle school in the United Kingdom, where they had children bring different concoctions from home, and they tried to use these concoctions like minestrone soup and see how effective they were in killing the mosquito larva. And the minestrone soup came up on top. And this was something that they posted on NPR. And so minestrone soup actually could prevent the multiplication of mosquitoes, right? And so they actually, even though it was a school experiment, right, but it still had some power. And that made me think about what we do at home. And at home, what I do for my kids, or if my spouse is not feeling well, we make something called rasam. And rasam is a very traditional South Indian recipe, and it's just passed down generations after generations. Every family has its own different spices, but I wanted to talk about a simple rasam that anybody can make at home, and you don't need many ingredients to make it. And when you have that, you genuinely feel a lot better. You really do
That's
feel a lot better.
fantastic. Because I think every culture has it, like, Jewish chicken noodle soup.
Yes.
So I think it's not necessarily the chicken or the noodle. I think there's just something therapeutic, like you say, in the broth.
Yes, absolutely. It's the broth. And I was just talking to my friend earlier, and I was talking about, we were talking about different herbs and spices. And, we talked about star anise that is used in Vietnamese broth. And I started using that even with my Indian foods. And
Wow.
so all of these things help.
Oh, we have a wonderful, you might know her. Do you know Surisha Patluri? She's been on the show before.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, and she's commenting, Rasam is a must-have when we have a cold.
Yes, exactly. And you really feel so good when you have that. And so I wanted to show that a simple recipe. So I'll start off with that, and then we can. I also wanted to mention a few other things about veggies. So should we go and do the demo?
Absolutely. If you don't mind, though, I'm seeing a lot of questions on spices. People are asking specifically, are there spices that can help either prevent or treat COVID? Are there spices that can help with menopause?
So I don't think that we know if any spice can actually prevent COVID, but I think that when we eat a balanced diet, we can use the spices, because many of the spices can help us lower the number of calories we are eating. Some of the spices may help us decrease sugar cravings. But definitely we need to know how to use the spices, and we really want to use the spices very with respect, because we don't want too much of spices either, right? So one of the common things I see is with turmeric. There are turmeric capsules, there are turmeric shots, there's turmeric in everything nowadays. And when you do too much of these spices, they can cause trouble too. So you can have gastritis from using too much turmeric. You could even have gastric ulcers from using too much turmeric. So though we think of herbs as antioxidants, too much of anything is also not good.
Great, thank you. Ready to go to the kitchen?
Yes. So let's do that. And so we're going to start here. I'll just show it. So you can see here. Do you see my screen with?
Oh, it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful.
So what we have here is this here is just less than about a tablespoon of black pepper. This is about a tablespoon of cumin, and we're just going to dry roast these two together first.
That's a beautiful kitchen.
It's my friend's kitchen in Texas. So we are just going to dry roast these two. And all you do is just dry roast it this way. Do you see that? It's just
that is so cute what you're holding. It's like a miniature frying pan.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't, it's no need to add any oil. It's just dry roast. And then you roast it enough, and while you're roasting, you can start getting some of the aroma. You want to make sure you don't burn it though.
Does the roasting of the spices do something medicinally, or does it just bring out more flavor?
It brings out more flavor. It releases some of the natural oils, and so it definitely gets some of those the good oils released, and maybe activates it. We don't know. And also it just assembles into whatever dish you're making so much faster. You don't have to cook it more. And that's enough. You don't have to do too much. And so now this is nice and roasted. And so I'm going to now use a grinder here. This is just a coffee grinder, but you can dedicate one of the coffee grinders to grinding your spices.
Where do you buy your spices?
1 second. And it doesn't have to be extremely well ground. It can be slightly coarse. You can see that it's slightly coarse, and yeah. And then you just put it in there. And now I'm going to add my garlic. There's just 1 clove of garlic that is thin sliced. And then this is half a teaspoon of turmeric. Yeah, I think they can, yes. And then I have water. This is 1.5 cups of water. And this is tamarind paste. So you can get tamarind paste in any Asian store or Indian store. It's easier to use the tamarind paste instead of the whole tamarind and soaking it in water. That takes a little longer. But I'll show you this brand of tamarind paste. And ever since we've had this brand, it's like a game changer because it really tastes like just tamarind and nothing else.
And it's just pure tamarind, nothing else in it.
It's just pure tamarind.
Do you go to a special store for this and for your spices, or can it be purchased almost anywhere?
So for these spices, all the spices that I showed you so far, you can buy it at any grocery store because all there was is cumin seeds, and then there's peppercorn and turmeric and garlic. And the only thing is tamarind paste. You could get it maybe, in most of the international markets, you should get tamarind paste. Higher?
Yeah.
There you go. And so now while that is cooking, we can do something else. In the same little cup here, I have, you can see this, it's mustard seeds and cumin seeds, right? And it's just, literally a 1/4 teaspoon mustard seeds and 1/4 teaspoons cumin seeds. I've actually shared this recipe with you, Chef AJ.
Right, I put it in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, just look below the video. If you're watching on Facebook, hop on over to YouTube and you can see the recipe there. That is the most darling little pan I've ever seen.
And so this is going to splatter, So I'm going to just dry roast this. And I can answer questions if there are any.
Just that if there were spices for menopause that you could recommend.
I can't think of anything per se for menopause. There are some Ayurvedic herbs, but you have to be very careful using it and you have to work with someone who is highly qualified prescribing those kinds of herbs. But in terms of spices, I think just a extremely well-balanced diet really, really helps, because if you have the right foods with the right amount of calcium, magnesium, all the vitamins, all of these things that we get from real food and not supplements, all of that will help anyone going through menopause. In addition to food, the right amount of physical activity, sleep, not having, really learning how to deal well with stress, all of that helps.
Thank you. And there's a question, can you grind the spices directly in a mortar and pestle rather than using a coffee grinder?
Yes, you can definitely use a mortar and pestle for this. Yeah, you don't need to use a coffee grinder per se. Yeah.
And people are asking if you could show the brand of tamarind paste again.
Yes, yes. It's right here. It's called Indira's.
Wow, I have to find that. That sounds fantastic.
Splits.
Oh, splits. It's splits. This one is splits, but there's something called Indira's, which is exactly just that. It's the same package. It just has a different name. But if you look at the ingredients, it's just tamarind and nothing else. There is no preservative. There's nothing else in it.
What store did you happen to purchase it at?
So see, my friend got this because I'm in Dallas today. You got it from the
Patel Brothers.
Patel Brothers.
It's an Indian store. Yeah.
But so you'll have Patel Brothers all over the US. And so you can go to any of those.
Did you say Patel, Patel?
Yes.
Yeah. You know my story about Patel, right?
No, I don't.
Well, I'm not a very worldly person. And so I had scheduled, I have a little calendar that I keep here for every day, the guest on the show, and I write it down, and I book 5 months ahead, and I had written down Dr. Patel. And
yes, I do know now.
It was about a month before the show, and I needed to contact Dr. Patel to get the information, and I didn't have a first name. And apparently, it's not only just that Patel is a common name, but there's a lot of doctors named Patel, and I have met so many wonderful people until I found the actual Dr. Patel that are going to be on the show named Patel just because I had the wrong Dr. Patel.
I know. I remember that now. I do remember that.
I'm asking everybody, are you him? Are you her? And then finally, because not everybody uses their name as their email. And then I finally found the thread, and it turned out it was Dr. Soham Patel, the plant-based endocrinologist. Yes. But in the meantime, I found a bunch of Dr. Patels that are going to be on the show in my pursuit of the correct Dr. Patel.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Have you met Dr. Soham Patel? You have?
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He's a gem. He really is.
Well, just so people know, I did find the splits tamarind concentrate. It's on Amazon, so I'll put a link to it, because if people don't have it in their store, that would be a wonderful thing. I think I'm just going to order it from Amazon with my next order, because I have not seen it in the store.
And you don't have to boil rasam. So you can see now it's just a simmer, and then you can just turn it down. That's it. Right there. And so this kind of rasam, this one is, we make only for little kids, because it's not very spicy. So, when kids start, maybe 3 months after they start solids, they can actually mix this with some things like carrots, mashed out. This is a great thing to have. It's really a great thing to have. And the way you eat it is you make rasam, and then you can mix the rasam with rice and beans. So I'm going to show you that. Yeah. So you just take a little bit of cooked rice, or you could use cooked quinoa. It doesn't have to be just white rice. It could be white rice. It could be brown rice. It could be quinoa. You can add some cooked vegetables. In this case, I have some beans, some cooked beans, and then you can add little salt for taste. I didn't add that yet, but here, and it smells amazing, doesn't it?
It smells amazing.
It smells so good. And here you go. So that's the soup there. And you just add a little salt to taste, and that's the soup. And, we have in the past used, when we used to make it at home, when I was growing up, we used ghee, which is clarified butter. And so I thought we can never make anything without that, especially these kinds of food. It'll be difficult to have without ghee or butter, but I really don't miss it. My kids don't miss it. We make all of this without any oils or any butter, and it tastes great.
That's fantastic. There's a question about, where did it go? If you are sensitive to histamines, are there any spices which should be avoided? Asks Jyoti.
I will have to look that up. And I'll get back to you, Chef AJ, but I don't know about that.
Great. Well, do you remember Dr. Shah from Tuesday's show? He's watching, and he said that he uses soybean sprouts and black cohosh for menopause.
That's great. And the rasam that we made, you can also, so this is just a simple variety rasam that can be made very easily, but I will show you that we can use rasam powder, which you can buy from the Indian store. So you don't have to make rasam, the kind of rasam that I made from scratch. You can just buy rasam powder from the store. And when you buy this rasam powder like this, it has a lot more in it. It has coriander, it has lentils, ground lentils. So it has many more ingredients and no preservatives, I think. And then you make rasam the same way, but you already have this powder, and you can use lentils in it. You can add lentils to it. You can add, you have it. So, there's a soup called mulligatawny soup. So it's nothing but rasam. So when the Britishers came to India, they tasted this, it's pepper soup, and they called it pepper soup, or they called it mulligatawny soup. And that's what it's known as when you go to some of the restaurants, which are not Indian. And this is the root.
Nice. So how long have you been practicing lifestyle medicine? Were you a regular doctor first?
So I was always a regular doctor, and I still am. But what happened is, a couple of things happened in my life. When I was pregnant with my first child, my in-laws came to stay with us. And then they came to just help us, And so my mother-in-law asked me for ibuprofen or Tylenol, and we didn't have any. So I was like, we don't have any of that at home. And so she was like, what, you don't have medicines? You're a doctor, you don't have medicines at home? I'm like, no, we don't use them. So I don't have that. And so that was one instance. And the other instance was when I was, I was just about a year or two into practice, and I was seeing someone for sinusitis or an upper respiratory infection. I realized that, when we fall sick or we have any of these things happening at home, we resort to herbs and spices and foods that I learned from my grandmother and my mother and, so many people growing up, that I started thinking, why should I prescribe medicines to my patients when I myself don't use these things at home? And then I started talking to them about foods. And this was in the early 2000s, so 2001, 2002. And then I started bringing cookbooks, because when I would talk to my patient about cooking some foods, they may not know exactly. Many people didn't cook a lot of vegetables then, it's not as like now we use a lot of vegetables. People are aware of kale, they're aware of so many different greens. But then I think I was talking to somebody about cooking spinach. And then I went through the whole process and the recipe, and the person said, oh, it's just like collard greens. And I said, yeah, exactly like that. And then I realized that people cook different things, but they don't seem to understand that you can cook so many other things using the same steps, right? And then I started getting recipe books and all into my office. And so I've always practiced lifestyle, but not knowing that it's called lifestyle. And I knew the importance of physical activity and exercise, not smoking, because we have a very strong family history in my house and my family for heart disease. My father actually passed away from his first heart attack at the age of 63. My brother was diagnosed with coronary artery disease at the age of 39, and he had quadruple bypass, and he's changed his life. Post-surgery, he is a different person. He's actually a well-known professional billiards player now, and he was always one, but now he lost 100 pounds, and he is highly ranked in the world, actually.
Oh
and so
fabulous.
So,
there's a famous billiards player, Minnesota Fats. So maybe your brother is. Marilyn Slim?
So yeah, he's actually in Bombay in India. And so just from my family, observing people around me, I realized that lifestyle is like the most important, it's the foundation of your health. And then when I heard of lifestyle medicine as American College of Lifestyle Medicine, I couldn't believe there was such an institution. I just was so overwhelmed when I went for my first meeting. And ever since then, the first board exam they offered, I signed up for it. But my I was always, I love my practice is like after my home, my patients come next. And so everything I've done is through the practice. So I've tried to incorporate all of those lifestyle principles in my practice. And we ran a CHIP program, the complete health improvement program in 2017. And so many patients came off meds, but it was difficult for them to stay off meds. Like they did well, they came off meds, but then they went back to eating like before, and then they had to get started on meds. So over the years, I've learned that, we have to make small steps. We have to help in making just small steps. And these small steps have long lasting results. So my focus has now, really shifted to working with the patient more as a coach and trying to figure out where they would like to make a change and just helping them make that small change and keeping it consistent.
Does it matter how far along their disease is, whether or not they can make small changes? Because I'm thinking like if somebody is about to go on dialysis, a small change may not be enough. So
No.
do you work with them to?
Yes. So I think there are times when you have to make a quantum leap, right? There are times when they have to make major changes. But for most patients I see in my practice, most people walking through the door, I know that 90% of those things are preventable and possibly even reversed. And I think it's important that we try to make small changes that are consistent and easy and keep adding to it.
What small change would you recommend with as a place for people to start? Maybe somebody's watching this broadcast.
So I would just say, for example, I would say, focusing on how much fiber one should eat. So instead of saying, like restricting the number of calories or restricting the amount of sugar or salt, there was a study that was published in the Annals which showed that just they had two groups. In one group, they said, make sure that you're getting about 30 grams of fiber a day. And they had no limitations on calories, no limitations on sugars. The other group had, a much more stricter diet in terms of calories and sugars. The group that only had to worry about the fiber, they actually did better. They lost on an average of 9 to 13 pounds in a year compared to the other group. So being positive about it and, telling, showing them easy ways to do it really helps.
Wow. Were you raised vegetarian?
Yes. So I was raised vegetarian, but we ate dairy. So we are South Indians. We have a lot of yogurt in our diet, right? And we ate a lot of ghee, which is clarified butter. And then, my parents, they thought that, my parents were both very scientific in their approach. So they read all the books. And in those days, in the 70s, they actually thought meat is good for your development. So even though we were not, we were brought up vegetarian, my parents would take us out on weekends and they would actually feed us chicken because they wanted us to get stronger. So I would eat chicken here and there. But then when I went to medical school, I realized that, I kind of saw the bones are the same, like, the same femur that's in the chicken is in humans. And that's when I just realized that, we're all the same. And that's when I stopped eating meat. But then again, I'm also a student of science. So when my brother was diagnosed with heart disease, that was maybe about 10 years ago or so, the American Heart Association's recommendation was to eat fish, to get your omega-3 fatty acids. So I'm someone who has never eaten fish. I started eating fish because I thought that's protective for my heart. And then I realized that you really need to understand nutrition much better than just following recommendations, because recommendations keep changing quite often. And when I went for my first American College of Lifestyle Medicine conference, I heard one of the speakers he said that, fish may be good for me, but me eating the fish is not good for the fish. And when I heard that, I was like, you know what, I just needed to hear that. And that made me change quite a bit.
That is fantastic. Did your family follow suit?
So my husband is 100% vegan. He's actually a champion, He has reversed his diabetes, and he has amazing recipes. He makes, chia puddings, different kinds every morning. He makes salads of different kinds with different dressings. And one of the things, as a physician, I encourage people to cook. And but I'm very careful about adding a one more to do for the person in the house who is already doing so much. So I encourage, and I have two boys, so I encourage all men to cook, because I think that that's the best way of them showing their love for the women in their lives. And so this way people can share responsibilities equally.
That's fantastic. So we have a question from Faith. What is your favorite Indian dish, and do you use an Instant Pot?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So Instant Pot, so in my house, we have 3 Instant Pots. And then my boys have Instant Pots. And during the pandemic, they both came back home. And so we landed up with 5 Instant Pots. And I didn't realize I'm going to be using 5 but I would be really careful not to run them on the same circuit because I would actually have like 4 or 5 going at the same time.
That's
So we use Instant Pots for everything, because you come home, you put things in your Instant Pot, you walk your dog, you come back, and you have a good meal.
That's exactly what I say. You walk your dog. That's beautiful. So I take it you have a dog then.
I do have a dog, Mango, and I believe she knows how to cook, because she's in my kitchen all the time. She follows me. Before I go to the pantry, she will stand next to the pantry because she knows I'm going to go there for something.
Yeah. We haven't had an expert talk about this yet, but I know that dogs are not just dogs, but having a pet is so therapeutic. Is that part of lifestyle medicine? Because I when I was on the speech team in college, this was like 40 years ago.
There are lots of studies actually that show that having a dog helps, and not just with your mood and with anxiety, it can also help with immunity. And so having pets, having dogs, having cats, great thing. I think it's the best thing that we did in our family.
That's fantastic. I love people that love pets. Are you currently accepting any patients?
So that was the thing. We are not at this point, we are not actively accepting new patients, but things may change. We are trying to get another lifestyle medicine physician to join. And when we do that, in my practice, it's me and Dr. Seidelman. She's also a lifestyle medicine physician. She got certified last year. And she is an amazing cook. So I wish one day you can have her on your show as well.
I would love to.
And so we are 2 of us now. So it's just really fun to practice.
Oh, fantastic. Diane is asking, how much turmeric is too much turmeric?
That's a good question. So you really want to be careful with turmeric. So the way turmeric is used is it's just a little bit. So when I make, say, a pot of soup with 4 cups, right, of broth, I would not put more than half to 3/4 of a teaspoon of turmeric in it. But I use turmeric in everything. You can make turmeric milk, you can put it in your soup, you can put it in your stews, if you boil a sweet potato, or you boil you cook a sweet potato or a potato, you can put it in anything and everything, but just small amounts. So how much of it in terms of quantity, I don't know. I can just tell you based on how we cook with turmeric, because that's how it's supposed to be used. Or when we're using it with other spices, which I want to show you one more, a simple remedy at home, we use very less of turmeric.
Oh,
wouldn't you agree, Seema?
Yeah, absolutely.
Seema, so this is my friend Seema, and she just made this amazing dish for lunch where she used raw turmeric. And she used raw turmeric and
a root. Turmeric comes in a form of root which looks like ginger, right? So we are fortunate that we get it here in the Indian stores. So I use spices all the time. I love making cocktails, and I use herbs from my garden in my cocktails. But everything that we cook has have spices in it.
Yeah, yeah. And so so there's a dish called khichdi, which you must have heard of, right? Khichdi, and then it's traditionally eaten with a yogurt-based sauce called curry. You can make the same thing with soy yogurt, and it tastes exactly the same.
Perfect,
And
because there was a question, how did you replace yogurt in your
yes, yes. So you make it with soy yogurt. It tastes exactly the same, and you can put a lots of different spices and let it simmer, and that's an amazing dish also when you're not feeling well.
Wow, that's fantastic. What do you normally eat for breakfast?
Oh, so when I eat breakfast, I usually eat a chia pudding or I eat oats. But the way I eat oats, I learned from Dr. Esselstyn's videos. I eat raw oats. I love raw oats. So I just take any plant-based milk and I use just a handful of raw oats, rolled oats, and then I put some fruits or some berries in it, and then some maybe a little bit of ground flax seeds in it. But my husband makes the best chia puddings. And so that's what I usually do. But off late, I have actually discovered that I don't need to eat breakfast. So I know that there are many studies that show that eating breakfast is correlated with weight loss or weight maintenance.
I
But
never found that to be true.
it's not, yeah, you don't need, so if you're not hungry, you don't need to eat breakfast. So I usually just have, some water, and then maybe I do have a cup of coffee in the morning, maybe around 9. Even that I've kind of postponed, not when I wake up. And then I have my first meal anywhere from 11:30 to 1, and that's my large meal of the day. And then I have an early dinner, and that's really seems to be pretty good. And if I need a snack in the middle of the day, I have fruits or I have some nuts. And this is on most days. I'm consistent, but I'm not 100%, so there are days when, I will give in. I love sweets. So if there is a small celebration, I might have a small piece of that. And I believe in, enjoying a little as well. But consistency is key. So as long as you're consistent and most of your meals are healthy, you're good.
That's great. Yeah. I don't think people need to eat breakfast, but if they're hungry, they should. But so many people eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. That's kind of
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So let me show you this other. So this one we're done with this. So yeah. So let me just move these here. If you can just focus on this one. And so this here. Do you see this? We have, so this one here is 1 tablespoon of dry ginger. So you can buy this in any grocery store. It's 1 tablespoon dry ginger. This here is 1 tablespoon of dry cumin powder. And then this is about half to 1 teaspoon. Actually, it's 1 teaspoon of black pepper, and then half a teaspoon of turmeric. And then you just mix all of these. They're just dry spices that you just mix. And you just mix it up nicely so it's well mixed up. And then all you have to do is you mix it up really well, and then you just store it in an airtight container. And when do you use this? You use this when you feel like you have maybe a sinus infection, or you have like nasal congestion or allergies, and maybe even like a mild indigestion, like, mild tummy ache. And then you need very little. You need like literally, you see how much I'm just this much, like right here, even that might be too much. So just a little bit like that. And then use a little agave or honey. We have agave here, and just a few, that's it. You want to put a little bit of agave in there, and then add a little bit of fresh lemon or lime juice into this. And all you have to do is you just mix it up like this. You can even add a little bit of water to it, and then it's a little paste. And then you just eat it. You basically just eat that. And so it's easy to keep these things around in the house. And you can use these it really does help, but don't take this on an empty stomach. So maybe eat a little something, just like medicines. I tell my patients for most medicines, there are a few that you need to take on empty stomach, but eat a little something and then take this. And
Great. Thank you. There's a question from Yolanda. Have you found that turmeric can cause GI bleeding? Are there any restrictions for turmeric?
So if I don't know if it can cause GI bleeding. I'm not aware of any of that, but yes, you want to be really careful whenever if you're going to start eating turmeric and you've never eaten it before, start eating with a small amount, because it after all is a spice.
Right, great. And there's a question, does khichdi have to be made with veggies? Maybe you could explain what khichdi is.
Okay. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to have Seema do that, because she just made khichdi. And so she can explain a couple of things. I wanted her to also show us how, so there are certain things I wanted to show what we discuss in my practice, like cooking greens, because one of the common things that I see is a lot of people have reflux, or they may have a heartburn, or they may feel like they have some indigestion. And when I get a more detailed history about what they're eating, they are eating healthy, but they're eating a lot of raw foods. They're eating a lot of raw kale, raw collard greens, and things that are not easy to digest when they're raw, unless you're doing it over time. So, most of these foods that we eat, which are high in fiber, we are not breaking it down. We don't break the fiber down. It goes to the colon, and in the colon are bacteria and the microbiome there. They break the fiber. But if you're not used to it, you may not have the sufficient amount of these bacteria to break everything down. You may have more gas production from these other bacteria that might cause bloating. So it really helps to cook the greens, and it's so easy to have cooked greens, and you could do it in batches. You could put it in the fridge even previous days, and eating cooked greens have so many benefits. So I wanted to maybe do a quick demo on how easy it is to make cooked greens, and also sprouting, because it's great to sprout, and it helps with the digestion of these lentils when you sprout them. And then, yeah, so let's start with the khichdi.
Fantastic. People are asking for the recipe. And for yogurt, do you just buy soy yogurt or do you make it?
I have always bought it, but I know my friends who make soy yogurt at home, and it turns out extremely well. What they do is they use the Instapot, and they use the yogurt setting on the Instapot, and you put soy milk, and you just use there are some some cultures that you can actually buy as yogurt starters, and you put it in there, and you hit the button for yogurt, leave it, and when you come back in, I think 7 or 8 hours, it's done.
Great. And the powder thing you made where you added the agave, people are asking, is the reason that you added sweetener to make it palatable? And if so, could they use maple syrup or say date syrup instead?
Yeah, yes, you can use it's to make it palatable. So traditionally we use honey, but I understand that most people on your show are vegan, and so honey, some of them may not have, and so we switched to agave, and but you can definitely also use maple syrup. Yes,
they do make bee-free vegan honey now, in case anybody's interested. I prefer date syrup. That's my only sweetener.
Oh yes,
use dates.
Yes.
Oh, just so you know, it seems like all the doctors that were on this week are watching you today. We have Dr. and Dr. Raisin Pudding. Raisin Pudding, I call them that because they told me I could, but you know who I mean.
Yes.
Remember, Raya Pudi, they're both
Yes.
They're saying wonderful tip for the sinus problem. That's
awesome.
Yeah. Do you have a particular brand of soy yogurt you like? Someone is asking.
Oh, I don't know. Wait, let me think about it. It's the one that we get at Whole Foods. Yeah, I don't really buy much yogurt. I don't buy much soy yogurt. That's my luxury thing. Not luxury in terms. It's like it's when I kind of feel like I want to have something different. It's not something I buy regularly. I've learned to live without yogurt.
Yeah, I wish I would. I miss out on. Oh, sorry. I was just going to
coconut yogurt. In case anybody has tried coconut yogurt, it's delicious.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I just was saying I miss out on a lot because I'm allergic to soy and I'm allergic to black pepper. So
but you can do this without black pepper, and
great.
And you can eat cashew yogurt. Can you eat cashew?
I can eat cashews. Yeah,
great. And I think this Folgers brand is what comes to mind with cashew yogurt, and that's really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
So khichdi is pretty simple. It's just any split lentils. For example, these are mung bean lentils. They're just split mung beans with the skin on them. You know, and then you take 2 parts of these split lentils and 1 part rice. You mix them up, wash them up, put 3 times the amount of water, and let them cook down completely till they turn to mush. And that's khichdi. And if you want to put vegetables, I always put vegetables. I sneak in vegetables in everything. I put carrots and green beans, uh, turmeric in it also, and salt. And there you have khichdi. It's simple as that. You can have it with yogurt. You can have it just as it. And let's talk about sprouted mung beans. So this is actually what I eat for breakfast every day. Uh, Simple. It needs a bit of pre-planning, but once you make it, it lasts 4 to 5 days in the fridge. And these are just mung bean sprouts, and they have these tails that are germinated. So it's super simple. All I take are mung beans. You wash them with water. You put about 3 times the amount of water and soak it overnight, or maybe 6 to 7 hours. That helps germinate. So after 6 to 7 hours, you wash off the water, drain out the water completely, cover it, and keep it in a warm place. In about 24 hours, they will start sprouting. This took, I soaked these Thursday night, and by Saturday morning, by this morning, they developed these 1 inch long sprouts. So the advantage of sprouts is it makes digestion much easier. It prevents the bloating and the gassiness, and breaks down the complex starches, makes it more readily available for our body to digest. So we love sprouts. You put them in salads, you can just eat them raw, you can steam, cook them, various ways to eat them.
It's so much cheaper when you do it yourself than when you buy them.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. A lot of these things, you can do yourself. You don't need to, like, you can sprout, you can grow some seedlings, grow your own herbs.
We've gotten so lazy though. Now that things are so available, but I was given a sprouting kit for my birthday, and it's just incredible. It only takes a couple of days.
And it, also it's like really helps being mindful when you're doing that. So, when you're actually seeing those, you plant your seeds, you're waiting for it to grow, and you water it. And that's just your time of taking away from always doing something and just being with those plants.
Right.
And
Well,
then,
that's one of the things we're learning from all the lifestyle medicine doctors about the importance of mindfulness.
yeah, yeah. And so this is another thing my friend made, and I was just so impressed. These are oranges, and they were kind of overripe a little bit. And so she decided to slice them really thin, and then she put them in the oven at 175 degrees. And for about, like, how long did you put
I
them?
just left, it depends on how much liquid they have.
Yeah,
So you just keep checking on them,
Yeah.
and you flip them once,
yeah,
let them completely dry and crisp up.
yeah.
And
it's-
there's your
yeah.
candy without sugar.
And this is candy without sugar.
And you eat the rind and everything, huh?
Yes, you eat the whole thing. And the thing is, so this morning, we've met, me and Seema, we met after 30 years. We're meeting after 30 years. So we haven't slept in 2 days. So we've just been talking, and we've been, before when we were in school, we were together as long as we were not in school. So we were together all the time. So we had to catch up on a lot of things. So I was a little, this morning, I was like, I'm going on Chef AJ's show, and my mind is just all over the place. And I ate one of these, and I was like, wow, it somehow helps me. And then she gave me ginger, just ginger, nothing else, because I thought, maybe do I need to go get coffee, or do I need something? I just ate a piece of ginger, and it gave me, I just felt awake. I didn't need anything after that.
That's fantastic. That's so wonderful.
Um,
What do you do for exercise?
So in general, I like to exercise a lot. So before the pandemic, and it's not the same throughout the years, but before the pandemic, for about 18 months or so, I was in a Zumba class, and this is a group Zumba class, and we are close to 50, 55 women in one class, and it's all Latino music. It is just amazing. And so that's what we used to do. I used to do that at least 3 days a week, and then I did yoga a couple of days a week. And then during the pandemic, I did the same Zumba class via Zoom, but then it got difficult, and then I started doing more on my own. So I do mostly walking now, and I do a little yoga, and I also have a bike, a stationary bike.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I do. I have a spin bike. So Tracy's saying she throws broccoli sprouts in her ice cream. Well, I've never heard that before. That's interesting.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
That is neat. What the patients that you see, what is their most common reason for coming to you?
So most of my patients, they are usually patients who have got some chronic medical conditions. So they have diabetes or hypertension or high cholesterol. They have overweight or obese, or many of them come to me even to prevent these conditions. So when I initially started seeing patients, I was mainly seeing patients who are older. So definitely had a more geriatric focus. I was not as comfortable. I actually enjoy my older patients. I used to enjoy my older patients a lot because I felt I had so much to learn from them, and the conversations were just amazingly interesting. But then I started seeing their children, and then they were about 10 years older than me. So their children were about 10 years older than me. And then I started seeing their kids. So now and as my kids grew older, I got more comfortable with younger people. And so I see patients all the way from 18 to 100. My oldest patient is close to 100 now. And and so they come to me for everything, for chronic conditions, to prevent chronic conditions. And many a times, we realize that a lot of the issues are not, so they come to me for different things, and we realize that the issues may not be what they came to me for.
That's interesting. So they don't know necessarily what they're getting into with lifestyle medicine.
But then my job is to help them figure it out.
That is fantastic. Let's see. Kate said, are there any supplement brands that you can recommend?
I love that question because you can talk so much about it, right? So I feel you have to be very careful with supplements. In general, I would say supplements are a waste of money, and it can also sometimes be harmful. The only supplements I would say are okay to take once in a while if you're not eating a very balanced diet. If you're not eating, you're skipping meals, then maybe take a multivitamin 2 or 3 times a week. But be very careful. Just take something that's really small, maybe just a kid's multivitamin. You don't even have to take, because when you take women's or men's, they have like 100 or 200 required RDA required. So it's too much. So just take a little bit. Vitamin D, yes, you do need to take vitamin D. Most of us are deficient. So take up to 1,000, 2,000, check with your physician for sure. You want to check your levels for vitamin D. Vitamin B12, especially if you're vegan, it's good to take vitamin B12. But no specific brands. Try to get a good way to do is there is a website which is called Nutrition Facts. I think Nutrition Facts is Dr. Greger. I mean, he's my hero, but there's I'll tell you before this we're done today. I'll just Google and let you know. There is a website you can go to just confirm if your, the supplement that you're planning to buy is considered, a good supplement brand.
Great, thank you. I buy the ones at True North because I feel if Dr. Goldhammer sells them, they're reputable. It's not his brand, it's Pure Botanicals. So I feel comfortable with that one. So Olga's saying, could you please get the chia pudding recipe that the doctor's husband makes? Maybe he'll come on the show and actually make it. But
he'd be so happy to come on your show because he actually is a true champion. He reversed his diabetes and kept it off, and he is keeping his diet and his exercise. He just keeps going with it.
That's fantastic. There's a question, how warm does the space have to be to encourage the mung beans to sprout?
That's a good question. So do you have a secret to that? Because in the Northeast, it's cooler and it's different temperatures, different times of the day. I generally would keep my sprouts in my basement near the furnace. So, but I have to remember to go and get it the next day.
So I
But
use the Instant Pot now on the yogurt setting. So just stick it in the Instant Pot at the yogurt setting, or I'll stick it in the oven without the oven on. Just cover it with a towel or blanket and put it in a pantry, or stick it in your oven. Basically, you don't want any draft of air
Yeah.
getting there.
Yeah.
You can also keep the oven slightly warm, turn it off, and so it stays a little warm.
Yeah, so that's a good suggestion. You can actually warm up your oven to around, say, 200 degrees, and then you just turn it off. And when you turn it off, you can keep your sprouts inside that.
Yeah.
And you can leave it overnight.
Fantastic.
But in general, I would just say that you kind of have to give it a shot and then see how it does for you, right? So sometimes it may take up to 2 days for all the sprouts. And so you just want to make sure that you wash the water about every 12 to 24 hours and put fresh water.
Drain out the water.
Drain out the water, yeah.
Right. I wish somebody would do my sprouting for me. So Carol said, could you please repeat the spices that you used in
the mixture? Yes, yes,
yeah.
Yes. So it's dry ginger powder. It's cumin powder. It's pepper, like just black pepper, and turmeric. So
Right.
the proportion is 1 tablespoon of the ginger. Like, I'm just giving you proportion, but I made a small amount. So I used 1 tablespoon ginger powder, 1 tablespoon of the cumin powder, and I use about 1 teaspoon of black pepper and half a teaspoon of turmeric. And then you just mix it and you just leave it in an airtight container. You can even keep it in your fridge because it will last for years. And then you just take a little bit of it and add a little sweetener so it's easy to take in. And,
So when my daughter travels,
yeah,
she'll just use, it's difficult to travel with honey or syrup. She'll just mix equal proportions of sugar. You can pick it up, in any hotel, right? So if she goes out partying and she's eating greasy food, she'll just take half a teaspoon of ginger powder, mix half a teaspoon of sugar, and you just swallow it with water. You feel as good as new.
Wow, that's something.
And then, and let's even show them. There are a few other things I want to just show that people will already have in their pantry, and so they can use that. So one of them is this here.
Fennel.
Yeah. So these are just fennel seeds.
Don't you chew them for better digestion after?
Yes, exactly.
I see that.
Yes.
They're so good, and they taste like licorice.
Yes, exactly. So that's one thing. And then you can do the same with cumin seeds. You can do exactly the same with cumin seeds. And just a small amount, literally just, you just take a pinch like that and you just chew on that. And what I love the best, especially when there's mild nausea or you feel like you have indigestion or reflux, just a pinch of carom seeds. It's called ajwain in India, and it's just carom seeds, and it does the trick. It really does the trick.
That is so cool. Let's see. I saw a question from Teresa. Are there any spices that you recommend we take daily for good health?
You want to be careful with spices. You want to cook. Usually, I would say what I would recommend is cook with spices. So as long as you are balancing it correctly, because you have to know there are certain spices that are better in some seasons. There are certain, certain herbs that are good in some seasons. So you really want to follow a good recipe. So if you know about Indian cooking, I think it's really easy to use spices with Indian cooking, but don't overdo them. Try with small amounts and then keep adding as you can tolerate them. People, when they think of Indian food, sometimes they think spicy is like red pepper, but there's so much more to it than red pepper, right? And I love Italian foods. I love Italian herbs. I have at home, I have an herb garden on my deck. So I say deck to table because literally I just go to my deck, I take my herbs from there and then I put them in my foods. So you can use more herbs. They're not as potent, but when you're using spices, start with a small amount. But everyday spices, I definitely think cumin, little bit of cumin, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of turmeric, little bit of coriander or cilantro seed powder. These are all safe to use.
Great, thank you.
Ginger is also good.
Gail says, did you say carrot seeds for digestion? I didn't.
Carom seeds. Do you want me to share my screen to show that?
How do you spell that?
Carom.
I've never heard of that.
They look very, yeah. So let me, you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, you're welcome to. I enabled it that you could if you like.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah. That's, yeah, maybe.
We thought you said caraway seeds.
No, that's different. That's different. This is carom seeds.
Right, never heard of it. Christissa says, what are your thoughts on Tulsi tea for health and Moringa powder? Are they safe to consume?
So Moringa is really, really great. I use Moringa powder even in my cooking, and I learned from Shirisha. Dr. Shirisha is where I learned to use Moringa powder in my cooking. So I've started using that with my like soups. We use the fruit of the Moringa tree, like their drumsticks. We use that quite a bit in cooking as well. And I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Tulsi tea.
Tulsi tea. I think it's good. Tulsi is extremely medicinal. It's an Indian basil, extremely medicinal properties, and you won't go wrong as long as you just have maybe a cup or two a day.
That's great. I did enable screen share if you wanted to do something.
Oh, okay. Can you see it now?
I can. You want to just change it in the view so that it doesn't show the desktop around it. There's a way to change the view.
1 second. Let me stop share again. Here you go. So that is Carom.
Cool.
So there you go. It looks like fennel. You see that?
Nice. And Michelle says, where do you get carom seeds?
So I get mine from the Indian store, but I'm sure I've seen this in Giant. I've seen them in regular stores. But if you go to an Asian store, or maybe order it online, Asian stores generally seem to have most of these.
Nice. And there is a question for gooseberry powder, about gooseberry powder. Kathleen says, what are your thoughts on Amla?
Amla is amazing. So Amla is gooseberry, and you can buy frozen gooseberry at the Indian store. You can sometimes find gooseberries even in Asian markets, and you can get the gooseberry powder, Amla powder. It is to be eaten more in warm days and in summer. So you really want to. You want to use it seasonally. Amla also is high in antioxidants, but you want to not overdo that as well. When you're using it in a powder form, you're really getting concentrated, quantities. So when you get, it's like, when you're getting powder, that means you're drying the fruit and then you're breaking it into powder. So it's far more concentrated. So be careful with that. So maybe just half a teaspoon and see how you do with that. And then after about a week, you can increase it a little. But Amla is also really good for your hair. And so it has it is a good herb to use, and it's generally very well tolerated.
Thank you. And Michelle says, is it important to pair turmeric with black pepper for better absorption.
I've always read and heard that, and many of the Indian foods they do have black pepper with the turmeric, and so we make turmeric milk, which is not with dairy milk. We actually make it with soy milk or with almond milk, and when we do that, I do put some black pepper and turmeric together.
Very nice. Well, wow, this has just been wonderful. Who knew that our pantry could be our prescription?
Pantry is our prescription. Yeah. It is how it should be.
Right. Ronnie says, are there any spices that cause bloating or gas? I know there's probably spices that help with them, but I don't know if there are any that cause them.
Yeah, well, again, if you overuse spices, if you use too much of the spices, it can possibly do that. So you really want to use small amounts and see how you do with it.
That is so cool. Well, gosh, thank you so much. This has been very enlightening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chef AJ. I mean, so many of my patients, they follow you. They have lost a lot of weight because of your recommendations, and they keep at it. It's truly a gift to know you.
Oh, thank you. I was going to let you go, but then I just saw a question from Lavanda. What temperature did you bake the oranges on? And what did you use to slice them? And I wonder if you could use a food dehydrator.
So my friend did the oranges. So I let her tell you what she did and at what temperature.
I just use a regular knife to slice them really thin, nothing special. And my oven temperature goes down as low as 170 degrees. So I just left them at that. And I kept checking every 15 to 20 minutes till they dried on top. And I flipped them over till they really become dry.
I have a few oranges that are getting ready to go bad. Maybe I'll do that now. Maybe I'll try it in my food dehydrator.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I remember buying those once when I was at Farmers Market in Los Angeles, and the tiny little bag was like $8. I mean, I could make these at home for free today.
Exactly.
I've seen orange earrings made this way. From these oranges, I've seen earrings and they look so good. So you can even make jewelry out of it.
That is fantastic. A friend says, how is amla used for hair?
So they put it in the oil. So they infuse oil with amla. So you cut the amla and you let it sit in coconut oil, or you kind of slow cook it and then you leave it in coconut oil, and then it's just infusing the oils with all the properties of amla.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Yes, and tell your husband if he'd like to come on and show us how he makes pudding. That would be amazing. And you can have all 5 pressure cookers going at the same time.
At the same time. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. I just wanted to just say one thing. When we did the 14-week session in my office, the key component of it was for us to focus on the process and not to focus on the results.
That's what Dr. Doug Lyle always says.
That's the key, is just the process. And if you make it fun, you keep doing it and the results just come.
I love that. I love when all the experts agree. I'm typing that in the chat, because that is exactly what he says, especially for people with a lot of weight to lose. You can't focus on the scale, you focus on the process. Yeah, love it.
And then one more, I think we touched on everything, but just one more thing that people tend to, when they eat out, they tend to choose foods that they think are healthy because they're vegetarian. And a lot of ethnic foods fall into that category. And then, so Indian foods, Thai foods, but they are very high in sugar and salts and fats. So they should know about that. And then there are also some chains which are touted as healthy, but they do have a lot of hidden salts and sugar. So there are easy ways now to find out. So if you just go online and Google and you put down what you're going to eat and say sodium milligrams or fat content or salt grams, and it'll tell you exactly how much there is. And you'll think a little bit further before you go and get that to eat. So just wanted to put it out there.
So Diane says, if you make the orange earrings, you'll always have a snack with you.
That's true. And
there was, I was once, I think it was San Francisco, one of the veg fests where someone actually did make jewelry out of fruits and vegetables. And I have watermelon ones, and then they glaze them, so you can't.
Yes, they do glaze them. Yes, I was going to say they do glaze them.
Right. So don't eat them once they're glazed, then it lost all nutritional value. Right. That's great. You guys are delightful. Every guest this week has been incredible. I really thank the first Dr. Patel that coordinated this, not the one that I couldn't find, the one that I could find. So thank you so much. It's so nice to meet your friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chef AJ.
It is my pleasure. And thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow for day 7 of Lifestyle Medicine Week, but know that for a while, the Sunday show will be at 2 p.m. Pacific time because I have to take my comedy class. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.